Excellent. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another incredible episode of Professional Witches. And I have a very special professional witch with us today. We have the wise witch, Caitriona. Mullins. It's only because I was talking to another Caitriona earlier, and I always get confused because Caitriona, do you know? Caitriona Mullins, who is the wise witch. Now, we chose wise witch because Caitriona is one of those impossible to put into a box type of witches. She does so many things and helps so many people. So anyway, welcome to the show, Caitriona. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. There's the wise witch, I suppose, is that kind of, it stems from, I suppose, the work that I do. And I've had a business for years called the Wise Woman Revolution,
Indeed.
which has which has kind of morphed in many different ways, but and that's where it comes from. But also, I suppose, having a background in so many different holistic therapies, shamanic practices, things like that. I just feel that now I just walk that path, the path of the wise woman. And what is the path of the wise woman? And who knows, really, it's just the path.
Yeah.
And I suppose the main thing is that I'm always listening to my own inner wise woman. And because she knows all the answers, like when I quieten my mind and listen, the answers are there. But we tend to, I suppose, live in a world where we don't do that as much as we possibly can. And,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, I think that's part of why I would say the wise woman or the wise witch or whatever is that I'm always listening in and kind of following what's true to me, I suppose. And then I suppose what I do is I help other women do the same, you
Yeah.
know.
And
Mm.
there's too much noise out there telling us we should be this and should be that. That's something that we can all do more of, is listening to ourselves. I always say, when you listen to yourself and your intuition about something, that's when things go the way they're supposed to. How many times have we listened to
Yeah,
somebody else about a situation and acted on their advice, even though it felt wrong, but because of the people pleaser in us? And then things have gone so
yeah,
badly. You just thought, if only I'd done things my way. So there
yeah,
is, and again, right?
yeah, and I think it's like part of my learning and my lessons. And what I pass on to other people through my work is that it's kind of like, I suppose it's being authentic and true to yourself.
Mm,
And the more true to yourself you can be, the better. And I tend to go against things, and it's not because I'm doing it out of being, a rebel, a little bit of a rebel, but
yeah,
it's
you are
more
a
about,
bit.
no, that doesn't sit right with
Yeah, no, absolutely.
but I'm like, that doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't
Yeah.
sit right with me. And I just cannot go against my soul. I cannot go against my inner wise woman. It's the same thing to me. It's like she knows, and then when I go with that, things usually, they work out. But we get in our heads all the time. Like, I
Mm,
mean, even we were trying to come up with, well, what should I be? What kind of witch should I be for this podcast? And I was like, I don't know. And I went into my head, and then I went, okay, I have to go to the beach and just chill. And literally 10 minutes before we started, I was on the beach going, okay, so I'm gonna just chill now. And then I was like, I'm the wise witch. I mean, that's just really obvious. But
yeah.
I couldn't see it because I was up here a lot,
Mhm.
and it's just learning to keep coming back to
That's it,
center,
because
and that's
we've got these, I mean, on a scientific level, we've got neurons in our heart and in our stomachs. So we need to learn to make more decisions in these parts as well. For me, this is for
yeah,
math, taxes, and that kind of thing. It's calculus, it is the brain and figuring things out how to do. But like decisions, big life decisions, need to drop down here, I think, much more. And
yeah, and I totally agree. But I think also one of the things that I've learned over the last while, and again, I learn as I go, and then I pass on what I
Mm,
learn. And I ended up being part doing a qualification in trauma informed coaching. And one of the reasons why was because what you said, we live in such a fast paced world that we actually sometimes don't know the difference between our nervous system being activated and our
mm,
intuition.
mm,
And I'm a really, really intuitive person, and I always have been, and I'm quite an empath as well. And I'm sure you are as well, considering the
absolutely.
work that you do,
Yeah.
and most of the listening, But sometimes we still get caught up in, is this my intuition, or is this, my nervous system reacting to the external stimulus?
Mm,
And then we think we're listening to our inner wise woman, but we're actually really just being activated or stimulated by whatever's going on around us. And
mm,
so in order for us to actually really have you know like here, we have to calm the nervous system first,
mm,
and that goes sciencey part of things, um and it's, yeah, it's been a real cool journey learning about that as well, because we don't, as intuitives and spiritual women, we don't often give the science part of things kind of like, the credit that it's due in
mhm,
some cases. And this, for me, like neuroscience is like, has been a game changer for me, in
yeah.
order to be able to really know and feel into my body and be like, okay, where am I right now? Am I actually activated in my nervous system and like with this excitement and, oh my God, this is amazing? Or, and I think that's the right decision? Or
Mhm,
am I actually, is this coming from my soul and my
mm,
inner wise woman, or wise man, if there's, or wise person, you know?
mm.
And yeah, so it's kind of an interesting journey, so yeah.
Yeah, and it is a puzzle for a lot of
Mm.
people, isn't it, to know that difference? And also, you can feel so enthusiastic about something, but then second guess yourself later. So again, is that the wise part of you coming through, or is that your brain kicking in and talking yourself out of something that actually seemed like a really good idea? It's really quite a minefield to know what you're talking, what you're referring to in that sense. Do you find that sort of which
Yeah,
is the right
yeah,
one
and
first?
it's been a real, yeah, and it's been a real learning curve for me, because I've had a business for a long time, and I have made decisions that were the wrong decisions out
Mm,
of, my nervous system reacting to, external stimuli, or, oh my God, this is going to be amazing, or the fear of missing out, or, things like that. And,
mm,
then you have buyer's remorse, and you have all this, like, and then, so it's this kind of like learning to really come in and feel my body, like it's the somatic part that was really learning, okay, how does my body feel right now? And
mm,
then knowing the difference between, this is my nervous system jumping into fight flight mode, and this is actually a really good decision,
mm.
and since I've been doing that, I've been able to make decisions from my heart more than, and of course I still do stupid things.
We're all
and,
human.
and make
Nobody's
decisions and
perfect.
go, oh my God, what have I done? But
Mhm.
but I come back quicker, and that's the main thing,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
and
I think
that's what I really love.
it's your like energetic level,
Sorry,
isn't
go
it?
on.
It's your energetic level.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
find when I wasn't acting in my truth, my energetic level was so low because I was so out of alignment. And then my energetic level is sort of like much higher here. So when sort of less ideal things happen, you kind of maybe take a dip, but you ping back. Whereas when you're on a
Mhm.
low energetic level, a good thing will happen, but it's really quick to return to that lower level. Does that make sense? And then,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It makes sense, And
mm,
I think that's like a lot of the work that I do with with the people that I work with is that we're on a like people come to me and they say, "Oh, I really want to help, my business," and then all of a sudden we're working on things that are absolutely nothing related on paper to their business. But
Mm,
what we're really doing, and I'm sure that happens to you as well,
all
we've
the
talked
time.
about that,
Yeah, yeah.
and what happens is that in order for you to have the business that you want, the life that you want, the life force energy, your sexual life force energy needs to be flowing,
Hmm.
and that's your creative energy. And when that's not flowing, it can be, it leads to all sorts of things that we end up, you know, making decisions that are not the right ones for us, or we're blocked in some way. And most of the people that come to me, they're either blocked with visibility, or, being authentic, true to themselves, coming out of the closet as a spiritual person.
Hmm.
Um, like imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud. These are my natural gifts. How can I charge for them? I don't have a piece of paper to
Yeah.
say,
I
this,
don't have
I'm
these great
qualified to do this.
qualifications. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all of those things, they come up, and that's usually like it's when we free up those things and we clear the blocks as such, we're able to kind of, move the life force energy. But our
Mm,
life force energy is like, for me anyway, it's really connected to our nervous system.
mm,
Because if we're always in a fright flight, or we're always in freeze mode, then our life force energy can't move. So we can do
mhm,
all the work we want, all the inner work we want, and you can go to as many healers and therapists and business coaches as you want and do all the work on your blocks and everything. But if your nervous system is all over the shop, and you're
mm,
not, like, you're not in that, like, the ventral vagal kind of,
mhm,
where, like, I like to see it as like a traffic light system. Like, the ventral vagal is the green, the orange is the fright, like the fright flight, and the red is the freeze. So if you're in the other, the orange or the red, your life force energy is not going to be able to flow. It just is what it is. But if you're in the green and you're connected to yourself and you're connected to other people, then your life force energy flows, and then you're
mm,
able to move forward, having done all the inner work. Because most of the women that I work with, and I'm sure you work with, and who are listening, have done the inner work. Like,
completely.
they're on the path. They've been doing it for years, and they've been doing all of that. But the actual doing a business or having a business in this world is like, it's crazy, like, even having to be on social media all the time, the amount of stuff that you have to do, like putting yourself out there on video, it's triggering your nervous system all the time.
Mm,
And if we don't have the tools in place, if we can't actually feel, oh, this is where I'm at, then all the goodwill in the world and all the deep work that we do is not gonna it's not gonna move us forward in the way that we should. And I
mm,
think that's been the biggest learning that I've had over the last, God, maybe even 10 years. Like, it's
yeah.
like, oh my God, why didn't somebody tell me this before?
Well, it's
Maybe
really
they were, I
interesting
just
because
couldn't hear it before.
we're working this new business paradigm, where things like pieces of paper and qualifications and having a degree don't really make that much difference. People are starting to realize that qualifications do not mean somebody is an effective coach or healer or mentor or
Yeah.
whatever. It's really about the results that people get with them. And people are really struggling to
Yeah.
break free from that. Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah. And like, I mean, I built my entire business around something that, suppose, I did have pieces of paper in some areas because I had just done some courses, but I wasn't looking for the piece of paper. What I was doing was looking for suppose, the information and the tools that I could use with people.
mm,
And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter. Like, at the moment, I am doing the course that I'm doing is the equivalent to a master's. That doesn't
mm.
actually matter to me.
No, it's
What
information.
matters to me is the information getting out of it. And I could learn all that information, but if I don't apply it to
Hmm.
myself, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't go anywhere, you
That's,
know. But and it's the same. Like I had a conversation with someone this morning, and it was like, I really want to do this type of work, and it feels really natural to me, and it's really it just like I just know this about people when I meet them, and I really want. And then he said, "Oh, but I don't have a qualification."
mm-hmm,
And my immediate answer was, but you don't need one because that's what you do.
mm-hmm,
That's what you do. And I work with the Celtic shamanic traditions, and in the Celtic shamanic traditions, they have a thing called the Aran Mór, and the Aran Mór is the soul song, right? And so everybody has a soul song,
yeah,
and you get to sing your soul song. Nobody. I think was it Wayne Dwyer said, "Don't die with the music still inside you."
mm-hmm.
So he was tapping in on that. Maybe he knew about the arrow one, maybe he didn't, but he was
Or maybe
tapping
it's
into
one
the
of
same
those
thing. And
pieces
it's like we
of
all get to sing.
absolutely. I mean, it's like it's one of those pieces of universal knowledge that is often left unsaid, but
Yeah,
when you say it,
exactly.
it resonates because it's so true. Yeah, yeah, I love that. So,
And usually the thing that we're good at that we don't even know that other people can't do as such, that's
mhm,
the thing that we should be doing.
totally.
Like people have often asked me to teach the Akashic Records, something that I
Mhm,
do. I read the Akashic Records. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to. Like, because I was like, it just comes so naturally to me now that
mm,
it would take a lot for me to backtrack to go, oh, this is how I could teach somebody. I will at some stage. But now I'm like, okay, it's just something that comes naturally to me. When I do the things that I do, it comes naturally. Nobody taught me how to do the healing that I
mm,
do. I just do it. And people have said, where did you learn that? And I go, well, I've done a few courses here and there, but I didn't learn that particular way of doing things
mm.
from that. It's just it is. So yeah, anybody who's kind of listening or wondering, like pieces of paper, they mean nothing really.
Yeah,
If you're good at something, you can do it, you know.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of
It's
what I
just a
bring to
case of
the
getting out of
table.
your own way.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, a lot of what I bring to the table is stuff that I learned when I was like from my father. And he didn't certificate any of that. It just was, and it's not even taught anywhere particularly. So this is the thing, is one reason why it's hard to put yourself into a box when the accumulation of your knowledge is from so many different places. Or where did you learn that? Well, I can't remember. It could have been from this place or that place or the other place. And it's just here in your library of who you are, all the knowledge kept in your brain and in your heart and in your soul. So tell me, Caitriona,
Yeah.
just shift slightly, what brought you into this? Were you always doing this kind of work, or were you once doing something completely off your path and you were led here by
Mm,
something mystical?
Not really. I think one of the things, so just it just popped into my head. So one of the things that really stood out to me when I was younger, I used to go on the bus to school, and we had to drive by this place, and there was a graffiti on the wall.
Mm,
And the graffiti on the wall said, "You were just a face in the crowd." I didn't know it was a song lyric, can't remember the song, but it just said, "You were just a face in the crowd." And I remember thinking, no, I don't want to be just a face in the crowd,
mm,
and I don't want to just do the thing that everybody is doing in order to do it. So there was always that from the age of about 14, 15. Anyway, there was that I don't want to be the same. And I knew I didn't fit in that
mm,
way.
mm,
And then of course when we got to, age to go to college and stuff like that, um, I went and did an arts degree because that's what, kind of like, oh, go do something. And I did that. And I very soon knew, okay, I can't do this. I need to follow my own path. And so I ended up doing sports therapy because I knew I wanted to help people. So that was my first introduction. So I worked as a sports therapist in my 20s up until I was about 26. And then I trained as an acupuncturist and basically have worked at that all the way through as an acupuncturist. I kind of stopped doing the sports therapy because the acupuncture kind of took over. And so in person, I'd been doing that for a long time. And because I had had an introduction then through acupuncture into the world of energy, I kind of ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole when it came to energy and things like that, and kind of came across people who were psychic mediums and things like that, and very quickly realized, oh, I can do that, but never wanted to do it, but just, oh, I can do that, and I'm psychic. I am a medium, but I don't necessarily do that. Like, I chat to guides rather than the people who've passed over.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm very in tune with the earth as well, the plants, the
Mm.
trees, things like that. So I get my information from there as well. And it's like I kind of, learned that I kind of bring the information from out there and bring it in to this world, and then use the kind of whatever the tools are in this world, like, whether it's the elements or the, things like that. And of course, I have a really strong connection with the goddesses here in Ireland, and that kind of came when I started to really tune into, the earth energies. And so we kind of work together as a team. And
Yeah.
that's been you've had some of the goddess energy yourself, so
Yeah, well, I was going to say we
you
met
know
through your Kaliak group that you run. Is that an annual thing now that you do, or is most?
yeah, we kind of we I had a break from it last year because I was working on a different project. So but Michelle kept going,
Mhm.
and the Calic journey is really a journey deep into yourself, I suppose, and kind of unpacking all the things that I suppose don't serve you. And I often say it's like you come alive in the darkness. We do it through the winter. So you go
Yeah.
into the darkness of yourself, and then you come out in the springtime kind of lighter and more alive, and
Mhm.
anything that doesn't bring you alive has been left behind,
Mm.
so that's been that's like I suppose a shamanic journey. I'm sure you know that. um
Yeah.
and so yeah, my journey has been kind of over the last 20 years, kind of slowly but surely coming deeper into kind of I suppose the more intuitive, the more shamanic, the more kind of deeper work as well. So when I do work with people, of course, we always have fun, we always enjoy ourselves, but there's always a deep kind of healing going on as well at the same
Mm.
time,
Mm.
because of course we have to.
Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a really crucial time for me when I did this work with you on the Kaliak. I'd just left my 20 plus year quite toxic marriage just before then, and I just really felt like it was, and I'd always been closely connected, I think, with the Celtic sort of folklore, and goddesses really appealed to me, connected with me on a sort of soul level. So when I saw this whole thing of the Kaliak, I was like, oh my God, this is just the thing. I was called to it. Um, but a lot of people really struggle during winter, but doing that Kaliak journey really opened me to honoring that season for what it gives us. A lot of people kind of don't like because there's not sun, but there's so much to be found in that darkness. And now, yeah, a lot of what I do, I relate to the moon card in tarot, which is very much that kind of dark energy, that shadow work. And this was like 6 months of shadow work effectively. And it was the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
Um, really, really wonderful revelations came from it. All the stuff with putting the bones in the cauldron and stuff like that. So I mean, what kind of led you to doing that? Was that because you and Michelle concocted that yourselves between the two of you? But yeah, sort of.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, so the Cailleach, for anybody who's listening, is actually the archetype of the witch or the wise woman in the
Mm,
Celtic traditions.
mm,
And so And myself and Michelle, we met back in 2017 at a retreat called Dreaming in a New World. And we kind of knew, okay, we're going to work together. Then in 2020, we said, okay, we'll do a retreat together in Ireland. She lives here, I live here. So we were like, okay, we'll do that. Then, of course, COVID, all that stuff happened. We ended up then being like, okay, we need to go online. And some kind of weird stuff happened where I ended up at the sacred site that is connected with the Cailleach, which is Lough Crew in County Westmeath, I think, in Ireland. And I ended up there during lockdown. I wasn't breaking the rules, I promise. And off I went up to the hill, and it's called the Hill of the Rich. And off I went there and kind of did some kind of inner work there. But what I didn't know until a couple of weeks later was a few days after I went, Michelle had gone. And she didn't know I'd been there. So she had gone, she'd done some work. And then when we came together, we were talking and we realized we'd both been at the same place at the same time. And we were like, okay, this feels like we really need to work with the energy of the Cailleach. And then we literally put it out there during the first lockdown. We were like, okay, can we get some people together? So we did, and we'd been working online for a couple of years anyway, so we knew enough people and had networked enough people to kind of go, okay, and they trusted us enough to say, yeah, look, we'll do it. And then it was really, we were informed as we went, and then we did it again. We did it for 3 years, and it was and the thing is that myself and Michelle, like, we did the work with you. Like, we didn't just sit around and go, okay, everybody, you do this, and we'll check in with you next week. It was like, oh no, you're going through it as well, like, and the most amazing things happened. And yes, it was deep shadow work. But I think that's just the nature of what I do is deep shadow work. And I've worked with the goddesses for a long time. So no matter what I do, they're always kind of like, they're just there. It's just the way it is. So there's different goddesses that I work with for different things. Like if you want some fiery energy and we want to kind of like get going, it's Bridget.
Yeah.
If you're looking to clear, like, the like really deep clearing in the sexual energy and the womb energy, it's usually Sheila McGig that kind of pops in to work with me. And I really believe that they've actually, nothing happens by accident, and I get led and I do all this work, and I've been working with them for so long that every time I work with them, I've already done the work on myself, and then now doing like even the trauma informed stuff, I'm like, okay, they are trying to give me the tools in order to help other people have the tools so that, yes, we can clear all the energy, we can do the deep shadow work, but then we also need to regulate ourselves in a way that we can actually then move our businesses forward, move our lives forward, have the things that we want to have. Because, some of us get stuck in the perpetual healing, where they're like, oh, I have to keep healing this, I have to keep healing this, I have
I've heard
to,
the term
when actual fact it's
have you heard that procrasta healing? I can't
no.
do this because I've got to heal this and
Oh,
that.
I've been there.
Yeah, totally.
And now it's like, okay, I'll heal as I go. That's my motto now. And my big work is to know, okay, where am I? Am I doing this out of, I suppose in some ways it's like, am I doing this out of fear or love?
Yeah,
Because,
that's a question.
love is like, love is calm. It's a calm energy, So if I'm in my heart, listening to my inner wise woman, my nervous system is regulated, I'm in the green zone, then I'm in the love, and love is calm. That, like, regardless of what we've heard, what we've experienced, love is calm. So am I doing this out of love or am I doing this out of fear? Because fear, we know, is, and the energy
Not
feels completely
calm.
different. But it's
Yeah.
actually, I feel like my journey these last, like, the last year has been actually really, really learning how to come back into that energy of am I doing this out of love or fear? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and how does that feel in my body?
Mm.
You know, um, because one of the things that has really helped me as well is my teacher has said, we can work with the trauma, not on the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Not we don't always have to work on the trauma, because I work on the trauma. We go deep, and I'm not afraid to go to places that people don't want to go, and I'm okay. I'll sit in the darkness with you. But
Yeah.
also there's a time and a place,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't always, as you say, it's procrastinating healing. We don't always have to go and work on the trauma. We can
Mm-hmm.
actually work with the trauma and move forward in our lives,
Yeah.
um, and create what it is that we're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Well,
it's
there's that.
interesting work I never thought I'd be doing.
No, I mean it is fascinating, and it encompasses so many different things. But there's this recent term that I've heard that resonates with me so much. People talk about post-traumatic stress, but then there's
Mhm.
post-traumatic growth, and that's where the
Yeah,
trauma, which can be anything from my dad shouted at me when I was little to all sorts of abuse and attacks and death and
yeah,
grief stuff. Like, it could be anything along that
yeah,
scale. But actually using that to grow. And I always believe very much that
yeah.
your pain informs your purpose. So,
Mhm.
the things that we've been through and survived and grown from, we can pass on to others. We can help others going through that similar thing. And with 8 billion people
Yeah,
on the planet, you can guarantee there are enough people out there going through the same or similar enough things
absolutely. And
as
it
you
happens to me all the time. I don't know if it happens to you, but it happens to me
do.
all the time. Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
gone through a marriage breakup, and then my clients come along and they're like, I really
Yeah.
want to grow my business. And I'm like, okay, so tell me what's going on in your life. And they're like, I'm going through a breakup. And I'm like, okay, we need to look at the breakup first before we look at the business, because you
Mm.
can't run a business while you're in the middle of a breakup. In
Actually, that
You
knocks
can,
on.
but you're
Well,
not
yeah,
gonna.
no,
Yeah.
I
So I'm
mean, and
like,
I have,
your business
but
is your life. You are your
it,
business.
it knocks on to that. One of my clients that I spoke about on a Facebook post was, um, it was a male as well, which I do work with men, not many, but they do
Yeah,
come.
me too.
He was talking about his business revenue, but somehow it came up about a ex-wife, and there was a daughter from her previous, so she was like his stepdaughter. And he said the
Yeah.
one thing that he really regretted was not maintaining that relationship. And we explored issues around that, and he had some epiphanies. 3 days later, completely out of the blue, this stepdaughter got in touch with him, and he went on to have his highest revenue month ever the following month. How are those things related?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but they clearly were. And it was like the universe
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
now you're
absolutely. It's like when
ready.
you free up energy.
Yeah, now you're
Yeah, it's
ready
like you're
to,
freeing up
to
energy somewhere.
do with
Yeah.
this. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
and I'm sure you find similar things all the time, because it's crazy, because
Absolutely, absolutely.
even though you and I have sort of maybe different methodology, it's a lot of similar outcomes. And the world needs more people like you and me doing this kind of work to help people through, because there's so many people sitting there in dark places, but stuck in those dark places rather than moving through them. And that's no judgment on
Yeah,
those people
absolutely.
suffering it, but
No, no, not at
those
all, because
are
we've
great.
been there. If we weren't there, we wouldn't understand. So we've been in those dark places, and we've been able to move through them. And that's our post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
And so we can understand. And the thing is, as well, one of my big things is that I know these things take time.
Mm.
They really, really take time, and every person is different. Like, I worked with somebody there a while ago, and she just could not even sit and be like, close her eyes and be quiet.
Yeah.
because so much had happened in her life, so much had gone on, that actually, and this is where the trauma informed piece came in. I was like, well, if I go and start actually digging deep now for things, oh, let's clear more stuff, like that wasn't going to help her at
Mm.
all in any way. And so we just sat there and we breathed, like we were breathing together. And
Yeah.
I was able to create a safe space for her to close her eyes and be alone with herself for like a minute. And because she was able to do that, she she burst into tears. There was this big whole thing. And then she was like, oh my God, I feel safe. And
Mm.
I was like, wow, okay. And so that she was able to feel safe in her own body, that then will lead to something else and lead to something else and lead to something else. And then she agreed that she would spend maybe 3 minutes a day just with, maybe meditating. Now, she used to be a big meditator, but lots of things happened in the
Mm.
meantime. And she
Mm.
was quite spiritual and everything, but so much had happened, she wasn't able to go there because she felt unsafe just to even be on her own. And then
Yeah.
she eventually was like, she came back to me a couple of weeks later and was like, I've been doing 3 minutes a day of just being with myself. And like, that sounds sometimes to people like that's nothing. For some
Mm.
of us who could sit maybe for an hour with meditating, that's nothing, but to her it was the world,
Huge. Yeah.
and to be able to actually see that and say, okay, I can work with the trauma and not on the trauma right now. That
Mm.
was the game changer for me, and that's been the game changer for my clients as well, is that they know that they're in safe hands as well, because I have done maybe things before that weren't trauma informed, and now I'm like, okay, I have compassion for myself. I didn't know. Now I'm doing things differently, and I feel like my clients are really benefiting from that as well, so
Mm.
I have the kind of the tools to go deep or to stay where we need to stay to create a safe space. And I think that that's what you do as well.
Mm.
In we all do that in our own ways.
Yeah.
And then people are getting that benefit of like real transformation and real growth. As
Mm.
they move forward, because it's mostly it's about safety.
It is.
Because even as healers, therapists, we spend a lot of the time and we're not even in our bodies. Right there
How true
somewhere.
that is.
Oh yeah.
We're different to the 5D
you
a
know
lot. So come back. Yeah.
yeah, and like, we can do, I mean, 5D is to me, 5D is just living from your heart.
Mm. Yeah.
So if you tune into your inner wise woman and you tune into that and you're living from your heart, am I living from love or from fear? If I'm living from love, that's 5D. We're not going anywhere. We're not ascending to somewhere. We're just staying here in the present, living from our hearts and living in love and being of service in that,
Mm.
from that space as well. But um yeah, it's all very interesting. And another thing that's just popped into my head is, and I think you probably work with this as well, is the balance between the masculine and the feminine.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
big thing,
Yeah.
a big,
It's
big
a huge
thing.
it's a huge thing in tarot because you've got so many kings and queens, and there's the emperor and the empress, and the number of times that you get a king and a queen come out in a reading, just in like a 5 card spread, that and it's which king and which queen, and how that interacts is usually really interesting. Like somebody today I pulled a few cards for in a networking meeting just because I felt pulled to. And he had the king and
Mm-hmm.
queen of pentacles. Yeah, he was talking about not landing enough business, and yeah, that in itself sort of spoke quite loudly with the other cards that were there. He wasn't sort of he was like pretty stable and secure. He was an accountant. I mean, you would have to be, right? So but it was like he was almost too comfortable in that. It was yeah, a strange little thing. But yeah, that masculine and feminine balance is key to everything. And it's not
Yeah,
about male or female characters in your life, it's about the energies within that. So but yeah, no,
yeah. And I think because I work with people who have their own business, is the mainly the people that I work with, and I think you do the same. We have it's really important to learn how to balance the masculine and feminine,
Mm,
with the masculine, like taking action and having structure, and then being in the feminine, having the flow. And that's been a huge journey for me, because I flow. I'm good at flowing. I'm good in the really good in the
mm,
feminine energy, and like
yeah.
that's because of the journey that I've had with the goddesses and things like that. And so I'm really good at just flow. Um, but finding the structures, and
Mm,
when to take action is sometimes a bit of a struggle, and I'm getting better on it. And I've been also put in places and have had things happen in my life so that I can learn to do that more. Like, but that's been
mm,
a big game changer for me, and that's something that I always talk about with clients. And like, we work with people in business, and sometimes people will say, oh, I'm a business coach, and I'm like, no. Like, I'm not going to teach you about strategy. I'm not going to tell you how to do your different things. If I know something about social media, I'll tell you, but it's not what people are there for. It's much, much deeper than that. It's a
mm,
like it, without going too far off the wall. It's like it's alchemy. And I think that's what you said about when we did the kayak journey, we had like a virtual cauldron, and we put all the stuff that we didn't need in, and then it alchemized down, and we used the ash then to fertilize
yeah.
and that's the process of alchemy. And I think
Yeah.
that's what I do with people, is like this kind of like this transformation through alchemy. It's like, we're going to dissolve what it is that you don't need, and then I'm going to support you to actually you know be able to live in this world, because it's tough,
Mm, it
you
is.
know um, and especially when we don't fit into the social norms, I suppose.
Hmm.
You know.
The boxes. Yeah, makes it challenging to explain what you do, isn't it? But it's, yeah. I mean, do you probably find this um where you get a client come to you and they say, I don't really know what it is you do, but I'm feeling intuitively drawn to working with you. Is that
Oh, absolutely,
all
absolutely.
the
Like, it's
time?
always, yeah. They're like, you know what to do, and I'm like, it doesn't really matter. It does, and I'll tell them, and I'll
Mm,
explain as much as I can. But I'm like, usually if you're here and you've already, you've booked and you've turned up, then you're in the right place. And we'll always, you know we'll always know there and then what's happening. And people will come and they will say, oh, this is what's going on. And a lot of the time that's what we work on, and we go, oh yeah, okay, that's great.
mhm.
And then in other times, it's like something completely, like, as you said, that man with the business, he worked on something else, and then that moves things forward. So it's always like, or we don't do anything at all, and we just sit there, and we
Got
make sure that
space.
you're tuned into your body and that you're feeling
Mm,
safe.
mm.
So it just depends, like, and then of course I do. And I think, I don't know if I haven't worked with you with the akashic records, have I?
No, I don't think we've done that one. No,
No, no.
no.
But I do like, kind of like, it's just like, it's usually like, kind of like, it's a fun session that I do with people, that is like, it's an Akashic Records business reading. And so I'm reading the soul of your business,
Yeah.
basically. And that's always really fun, because it's kind of like, tuning into the blueprint of your business and what it wants to bring through right now. And that's usually the most strategy you're going to get out of me, is that, we'll usually be like, okay, what programs do you have, what services have you got, what skills and tools, what's your message, things like that. And then we kind of, they're usually there for people, and I'm sure this has happened to you, it's happened to me, where you go, I know what it is I do, but I just can't seem to get it into the earthly plane,
Yes.
and
Like
out
the
there.
old
And so
elevator
usually in them
pitch.
sessions,
They talk about having an elevator pitch.
yeah,
That is the
I
most
know. And it's like,
challenging thing.
I
Somebody told
know,
me
yeah,
about
yeah, I
I
kind
gave
of
you
gave up, and I thought that's
clarity
part of
about
being.
like that I give them clarity about decision making. It's like, okay, that's what I did for that client, but that doesn't touch the surface of what I do for some of my other clients. And it's, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, it's a challenge.
Exactly. Like, so that them sessions are always fun, and they kind of bring things together kind of out of the ethers. And the word for the word for ethers in Sanskrit is akasha. So I'm just basically bringing things from the ethers into this earthly plane, and we kind of go, okay, now you have what you were thinking. There's a lot of clarity goes on in them sessions, a lot of like, oh, that's what I was thinking I was going to do, or that was the name of the business that I was. We always get business names, or we get name for things, or whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then people can kind of go, okay, now I'm forward, and then we end up, they'll come back and be like, okay, I need to work with you because all of this stuff is coming up now. I know what I want to do, and I know how I'm going to do it, but now I've got all of the, imposter syndrome and the fear of
Mm-hmm.
visibility and all them things. They're all, how do I move through that? And then that's where the kind of the more healing side of things comes in. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I suppose it's probably the equivalent to you maybe having like a quick tarot reading with you, or on a specific thing, that
Mm-hmm.
you kind of get the, get what you need out of the session, and it can kind of stand alone, or it can lead to,
Yeah, that's
working
it. I
together for
mean,
a longer period of time.
some people come and watch me on a Facebook Live and I pull two cards and they give them the answer and I never see them again. And other people, I've got one woman who's worked with me for 18 months for various guidance on life and business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm like that as well. I've had a client for going on 3 years now,
Mm,
and again, it's like we don't like I never want somebody to work with me because they feel dependent on me, and that's never the
yeah,
case, you
yeah.
know. But it's usually um, you know, like actually I've got a couple of clients who have been with me for a couple of years, but they'll sometimes like this one woman who only comes once a month. And
Hmm.
she's coming once a month because she knows that it brings her back
Hmm.
to herself. It
Yeah,
brings her out of her head. It brings her like keeps her moving in the right direction.
that's it.
We had done weekly when we first met her, and then we'd gone into bi-weekly, and now eventually we're doing monthly sessions, and
Mm,
so I think it's really lovely when you have things like that as well, because then you can really grow a relationship with somebody,
yeah,
and yourself, like working with me over 6 months, we got to know each other, you
yeah.
know, and we haven't met each other in person. I bet if we did, we'd just be like, sit down, have a cup of tea,
Oh
everything will
God,
be fine.
it would be
We're like
fun.
old
It would be
friends,
fun.
Yeah,
Completely. And I've
yeah,
never
yeah.
been to Ireland and I absolutely should. I've got family there and I've never been there. So
Yeah. Oh well,
yeah.
you never know. I might be cooking something up.
I'm
I'd love to.
I'm
Yeah, I
living
think
on other
myself and
Celtic lands
Michelle
right
might.
now.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I think we might,
yeah,
cook something up for the future. Have a
quite
nice retreat or
possibly.
something.
Quite possibly. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
what I like to round things off with these chats is if you had one message that people listening could take away. um, I know, I know this is a challenge, I get it,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know, just what is the one thing that you would say is your like key piece of wisdom from the wise witch to take away from this, that people
Yeah,
miss.
I think straight away, and I think it's because of the journey that I've been on, and it's just be true to yourself.
Mm,
Authenticity is the key these days.
yeah.
There has been a time in the past where, you could have a really cool business and, be faking it,
Mm.
basically.
Oh, that
But
fake it
now
till you
that
make
that
it.
doesn't wash with people.
No.
It doesn't wash, and it's not going to wash with you. You won't have a sustainable, you know, authentic life and business if you're not true to yourself. So it's like being true to yourself. And yeah, maybe you will have to go against the norms. Maybe you will have to, you know, say no to things, and or kind of move people out of your life and things like that. But staying true to yourself and kind of listening to your inner wise woman will always, always, win the day. So yeah.
Absolutely. Very
That's
wise
it.
words indeed. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Caitriona, for coming on. It's been a pleasure, as always, to talk to you and to share your wisdom with the listeners. And if you have listened to this conversation and you love it, then you all the links of how to get hold of Caitriona will be going in the show notes. And
Yeah. And come over to my Facebook group. That's kind of where all the fun happens.
yes,
Um,
the Wise Woman
yeah,
Revolution.
it's the yeah,
Wow,
We
so
have
great.
we have the
And we have a good laugh in there as well.
yeah, yeah.
And also do comment on anything that you've taken away from this that's resonated with you, and share the episode with your friends and help this channel to grow. It would be amazing if you could do that. Thank you so much. So we'll see you again next week.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Caitriona. It's been real. It's been real, of course, as always. We'll see you all next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.